At 94, Robert Duvall finally opened up about the biggest regret of his life, losing the woman he truly loved. In an explosive confession, the legendary actor revealed how a shocking betrayal, million-dollar mind games, and one terrible mistake cost him everything. But that's not even the craziest part. After 60 years of silence, he's finally telling what really happened the night she walked away forever. Robert Duvall was born on January 5, 1931, in San Diego, California. His family had strong ties to both the military and the arts. His mother, Mildred Virginia Hart, was an amateur actress. On her side of the family, Duvall was a descendant of Confederate General Robert E. Lee. That connection to history would later play a role in his acting career when he portrayed Lee in Gods and Generals. His father, William Howard Duvall, was a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. He had a remarkable career and became a captain at just 39 years old. As the son of a high-ranking officer, Duvall grew up in a strict but disciplined household. His family moved frequently between naval bases in Maryland, Rhode Island, and Virginia. Most of his childhood was spent in Annapolis, Maryland. His father wanted him to follow the same path and serve in the Navy, but Robert had little interest. He later admitted he struggled in school and was terrible at everything but acting. His love for performance began during his time at Severn School in Maryland. It grew stronger when he attended the Principia in St. Louis, Missouri. After high school, he decided to study drama and enrolled at Principia College in Illinois. He graduated in 1953 with a degree in drama, but his journey into acting had to wait. That same year, Duvall enlisted in the U.S. Army. He served from August 19, 1953 to August 20, 1954, just after the Korean War. He was stationed at Camp Gordon in Georgia, now known as Fort Eisenhower. Unlike his father, who built a decorated career in the Navy, Duvall's time in the Army was uneventful. He finished his service with the rank of Private First Class and later joked about his lack of military skills. In interviews, he dismissed rumors about his service and once said he had barely qualified with the M1 rifle during training. Despite his short time in the Army, it led him to his true calling. While stationed at Camp Gordon, he took part in a local theater production of Room Service in Augusta, Georgia. That experience reinforced his passion for acting. In 1955, Robert Duvall made a life-changing decision. He moved to New York City to study acting at the neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. This school was known for teaching the Sanford Meisner technique, a method that focused on real emotions and natural performances. His classmates included Dustin Hoffman, Gene Hackman, and James Caan. All of them were young actors trying to make it, pushing each other to improve. The training was intense, but Duvall's dedication set him apart. He wasn't just going through the motions. He was learning how to bring true depth to every role. Living in New York wasn't easy. Money was tight, so Duvall worked whatever jobs he could find. He sorted mail at the Manhattan Post Office, clerked at Macy's during the holiday rush, and drove trucks when he needed extra cash. These jobs had nothing to do with acting, but they gave him something valuable, a connection to everyday people. Later in his career, this experience helped him bring realism to roles in Tender Mercies and The Apostle. During these years, he shared apartments with Dustin Hoffman and Gene Hackman. They were all struggling, taking turns sleeping on a fold-out couch and scraping by however they could. At one point, Hoffman worked as a janitor, and Hackman was voted least likely to succeed by his peers. They had nothing except their talent and determination, but they never stopped pushing forward. Years later, between the three of them, they would earn 19 Academy Award nominations and 5 wins. Duvall's first real break came in theater. Off-Broadway plays gave him a chance to show what he could do. In The Midnight Caller, he played Harvey Weems, a withdrawn drunk, and his performance caught the attention of playwright Horton Foote. He took on demanding roles like Eddie Carbone in A View from the Bridge, which earned him an Obie Award in 1965. Robert Duvall's first film role was in To Kill a Mockingbird in 1962. He played Boo Radley, a silent and mysterious figure who stays hidden until the story's final moments. Without speaking a single line, he made an unforgettable impact. His performance showed how much an actor could say with just presence and expression. This was the first glimpse of the dedication that would define his career. Screenwriter Horton Foote had seen Duvall on stage in The Midnight Caller and believed he was the perfect fit for Boo. Boo. He recommended him for the role, and Harper Lee, the author of To Kill a Mockingbird, agreed. She even sent a telegram that read, "Hey Boo," a simple but clear sign of her approval. To prepare for the role, Duvall went to extreme lengths. He avoided sunlight for 6 weeks to achieve the pale, ghostly look of someone who had spent years in isolation. He also dyed his hair blonde to match Boo's description in the novel. These small but important details made his performance feel real, even though he never spoke. The film builds up Boo's presence without showing him until the very end. When Scout Finch finally sees him and whispers, "Hey Boo," it's a moment of quiet revelation. Boo, who had been seen as a strange and dangerous figure, is revealed as a protector. He is the one who saves Scout and her brother from harm. In that moment, he becomes the heart of the story, the true mockingbird, a symbol of innocence harmed by the world. Originally, Duvall had one line in the film, but it was cut. That decision only made his performance stronger. He didn't need words to make an impact. The way he moved, the way he looked at Scout, said everything. Audiences and critics noticed. Even in a silent role, he stood out. Robert Duvall's role as Tom Hagen in The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2 is one of the most memorable performances in film history. Hagen was not just a lawyer for the Corleone family. He was their trusted advisor, the man who handled business with words instead of violence. Played with quiet strength by Duvall, Hagen stood apart from the rest of the family. He was adopted by Vito Corleone as a child, but his German-Irish background always made him feel like an outsider. Unlike Sonny or Michael, he wasn't driven by emotion or hunger for power. He was calm, logical, and always thinking ahead. When The Godfather was released in 1972, Duvall's performance stood out. He made Hagen more than just a supporting character. His presence was felt in every major decision, whether it was handling negotiations or smoothing over problems. One of his biggest moments came early in the film, when he visited Hollywood producer Jack Woltz. Hagen tried to reason with him, asking politely for Johnny Fontaine to be cast in a movie. When that didn't work, the Corleones sent a stronger message, leaving Woltz terrified after waking up next to his prized horse's severed head. Hagen didn't deliver the threat himself, but he made sure it was understood. By The Godfather Part 2 in 1974, Hagen's role became even more complicated. When Michael survived an assassination attempt, he had to leave the country to find out who betrayed him. During that time, Hagen became the acting Don. It was a sign of how much trust the family had in him. But as Michael grew more ruthless, Hagen's influence started to fade. Michael kept him out of key decisions, shutting him out in ways Vito never did. Duvall played this shift with subtlety. Hagen never lost his loyalty, but you could see the doubt in his eyes. He didn't always agree with Michael's choices, but he never turned his back on the family. His performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actor in 1972. He didn't win, but the nomination showed how much impact he had. Unlike Pacino or Brando, who played characters that exploded with intensity, Duvall kept Hagen controlled. He didn't need big speeches or violent outbursts. His power was in the way he spoke, always measured, always careful. That contrast made him one of the most fascinating characters in the trilogy. When The Godfather Part 3 was announced, fans expected Duvall to return, but by 1990, Hollywood had changed, and so had the way studios paid their actors. Al Pacino was offered $8 million for the film. Duvall, despite being a key part of the first two films, was offered far less. He didn't expect to make as much as Pacino, but when he saw the pay gap, he refused to come back. He later said that if Pacino had made twice as much, he would have accepted, but when it was 3 or 4 times more, he walked away. Without Hagen, the script had to be rewritten. Instead of a major role in the story, Hagen was written out completely. The film mentioned that he had died off-screen. To fill the gap, a new family lawyer, B.J. Harrison, was introduced, played by George Hamilton. But it wasn't the same. Fans and critics agreed that the absence of Hagen left a hole in the story. Even Francis Ford Coppola admitted that losing Duvall changed the film's direction. The original plan was to focus on Michael and Hagen's relationship, possibly leading to a power struggle within the Corleone family. Instead, the film had to take a different path, and many believe believe it suffered because of that. Despite not returning, Duvall never distanced himself from the first two films. Over the years, he shared behind-the-scenes stories, including some of Marlon Brando's unusual habits. Brando was known for refusing to memorize lines. Instead, he used cue cards hidden around the set. Sometimes they were placed behind props, sometimes written on walls. In one scene, Duvall even had lines taped to his chest so Brando could read them while acting. Brando believed that searching for words made his performance feel more natural. Some people saw it as laziness, but no one could deny the results. His portrayal of Don Vito Corleone became legendary, and he won the Academy Award for Best Actor, though he famously refused to accept it. For Duvall, The Godfather was more than just another movie. It was a turning point in his career. Before playing Hagen, he had already proven himself with roles in films like MASH in 1970 and THX 1138 in 1971. But The Godfather made him a household name. Robert Duvall has played some of the most unforgettable characters in film history. His roles feel larger than life, yet always grounded in reality. In Apocalypse Now, 1979, he played Lieutenant Colonel Bill Kilgore, a character as charismatic as he is terrifying. Directed by Francis Ford Coppola, the film is a surreal look at the Vietnam War. Kilgore is fearless in battle, almost too fearless, treating war like a game. His famous line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," is one of the most quoted in film history. It ranked 12th on the American Film Institute's list of greatest movie quotes. That line defines Kilgore. He sees destruction as victory, completely detached from the suffering around him. Duvall based the character on real military officers he had encountered. His father was a Navy Rear Admiral, and Duvall himself served in the Army from 1953 to 1954. He understood how soldiers carried themselves. Kilgore's most bizarre moment comes when he orders his men to surf during a bombing raid, as if the war isn't happening around them. And then there's the legendary helicopter attack scene set to Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, a moment so intense and operatic that it became one of the most famous sequences in film. Duvall wasn't on screen for long, but his performance was unforgettable. He won a Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor and helped cement Apocalypse Now as one of the greatest war films ever made. That same year, he played a very different kind of military man in The Great Santini. As Lieutenant Colonel Wilbur "Bull" Meacham, he gave a performance that was both powerful and unsettling. Based on Pat Conroy's novel, the film tells the story of a Marine pilot who is a hero in battle but a tyrant at home. He pushes his children to their limits, treating them like soldiers instead of family. His son Ben suffers the most under his strict and aggressive parenting. One of the most revealing moments comes when Meacham plays a game of basketball against Ben. When Ben wins, instead of congratulating him, Meacham turns hostile. He can't stand losing, even to his own son. Duvall made sure Meacham wasn't just a villain. He found the small moments where the character showed love, even if he didn't know how to express it. Critics noted that his performance softened some of Meacham's harsher traits from the book, making him more complex. The film explores masculinity, pride, and the cost of strict discipline. Meacham tries to make peace with his family before his death, but it comes too late. Duvall's performance earned him an Academy Award nomination for Best Actor. A few years later, he delivered one of his most moving performances in Tender Mercies, 1983. As Max Sledge, a washed-up country singer battling alcoholism, he brought quiet strength to the role. The film, directed by Bruce Beresford and written by Horton Foote, tells the story of a man trying to rebuild his life in a small Texas town. He finds love with a young widow and her son, slowly putting his past behind him. Duvall prepared for the role by traveling over 600 miles across Texas, listening to local accents, and learning about country music culture. He performed all of Mac's songs himself, adding authenticity to the character. One of the most heartbreaking moments comes when Mac tries to reconnect with his estranged daughter. Before they can truly repair their relationship, she dies in a car accident. It's a painful reminder that second chances don't always come in time. The film's themes of redemption and faith are handled with subtlety. Duvall has said that Max Sledge was one of his most personal roles. He played the character with restraint, letting small moments of emotion tell the story. His performance won him an Academy Award for Best Actor. Though the film had a modest box office run, it became a classic over time. time, praised for its realism and emotional depth. But no role was as personal to Duvall as The Apostle, 1997. This wasn't just a film he starred in. It was his passion project. He wrote, directed, and produced it himself, pouring his heart into the story. He played Euless Sonny Dewey, a Pentecostal preacher who is both inspiring and deeply flawed. After committing manslaughter in a fit of rage, Sonny baptizes himself as the Apostle and starts over in rural Louisiana, founding a new church. Duvall first had the idea for the film in 1984, but no studio wanted to back it. The religious themes made it a tough sell. He refused to give up and eventually financed most of the $5 million budget himself. The film was shot in Louisiana over 7 weeks, using real churchgoers as extras to capture the energy of a true Pentecostal gathering. Sonny is a fascinating character. He is passionate, charismatic, and devoted to his faith, but he also struggles with anger and arrogance. One of the film's most powerful scenes shows him converting a racist construction worker during a church picnic. It's a moment that highlights both his gift for preaching and the complicated morality of his character. Duvall made sure the performance felt real. He avoided exaggeration, portraying Sonny with sincerity. His efforts paid off. The Apostle earned him another Academy Award nomination and widespread critical acclaim. It also won Movie Guide's Grace Prize for its honest portrayal of Christian faith. Though not a mainstream hit, the film connected with audiences who saw its raw depiction of redemption. Duvall once said that preaching is one of America's great art forms, and through Sonny, he brought that art to life on screen. Robert Duvall's personal life has been just as eventful as his career. He has been married 4 times, each relationship shaping a different chapter of his journey. His first wife was Barbara Benjamin, a former dancer on the Jackie Gleason show. They met in the early 1960s while he was filming To Kill a Mockingbird. By the time they married in 1964, Barbara was already a mother to 2 daughters, Nancy and Susan, from a previous relationship. Duvall was still establishing himself as an actor, taking on roles that would soon make him a Hollywood star. Over the next decade, his career skyrocketed with films like The Godfather. But fame often brings challenges, and their marriage ended in divorce in 1975. Though Duvall rarely speaks about this period of his life, it was a time of growth, both professionally and personally. Barbara later passed away on September 18, 2019, in New York City. 7 years after his first marriage ended, Duvall married actress Gail Youngs in 1982. She came from a well-known Hollywood family. Her siblings included actors John Savage, Robin Young, and Jim Youngs. Gail shared the screen with Duvall in Tender Mercies in 1983, the same film that won him an Academy Award for Best Actor. They had a deep connection through their work, but their marriage didn't last. By 1986, they divorced. Duvall had once vowed never to marry an actress, yet he made an exception for Gail. Whether their shared profession played a role in their separation isn't clear, but juggling 2 acting careers can be difficult. In 1991, Duvall married Sharon Brophy, a professional dancer. Their relationship was built on a shared love for dance, especially Argentine tango. At one point, Sharon even became his tango teacher. But even a strong connection over something so personal wasn't enough to make the marriage last. After 5 years together, they divorced in 1996. Unlike Duvall's previous wives, Sharon has kept a low profile since their separation, staying out of the public eye. Later that same year, Duvall met Luciana Pedraza, an Argentine actress and filmmaker. Their meeting was pure chance. Luciana, not knowing who he was, invited him to a party. Despite the 41-year age difference, they formed an immediate bond. Born on January 5, 1972 in Jujuy Province, Argentina, Luciana was the eldest of 5 sisters. She earned an MBA from the University of Buenos Aires before stepping into the world of film. Over the years, she and Duvall have worked together on projects like Assassination Tango in 2002 and Wild Horses in 2015. Their shared passion for tango became a central part of their lives. They eventually married in 2005 and have been together ever since. Beyond film and dance, they have also dedicated themselves to philanthropy. In 2001, they founded the Robert Duvall Children's Fund to support impoverished children and families in northern Argentina and other parts of the world. Through all 4 marriages, one thing remained constant. Duvall never had children. It's a topic he rarely discusses. In a 2007 interview, he made a light-hearted remark about shooting shooting blanks, but didn't say much more. Whether this was by choice or not, he has never expressed regret. Robert Duvall's later career was filled with roles that proved his ability to bring depth to any character. One of his most beloved performances came in Lonesome Dove in 1989. He played Augustus Gus McCrae, a retired Texas Ranger setting out on a cattle drive to Montana with his partner Woodrow Call, played by Tommy Lee Jones. The CBS miniseries, based on Larry McMurtry's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, became a massive success. It drew 26 million viewers during its original broadcast from February 5th to 8th, 1989, and helped revive the Western genre. Duvall brought warmth and humor to Gus, making him one of television's most memorable characters. He later called it his favorite role, even comparing the experience to filming The Godfather. The series earned 18 Emmy nominations and won 7, though in a surprise twist, Duvall lost Best Actor in a miniseries to James Woods for My Name is Bill W. He did win a Golden Globe for the role. Gus's story struck a deep emotional chord, especially his tragic yet dignified death. One of his final lines, "It ain't about dying, Woodrow, it's about livin'," became iconic. Critics praised Duvall for making Gus more than just a classic Western hero. He balanced toughness with vulnerability, turning the character into something deeply human. In the early 1990s, Duvall took on 2 difficult roles as historical figures. In Stalin, in 1992, he played the Soviet dictator in an HBO film that covered Stalin's rise to power from 1917 to his death in 1953. The movie was filmed in Russia just before the Soviet Union collapsed, adding a layer of realism. Duvall prepared by studying archival footage and speaking with historians. He described Stalin as a street gangster who lived in constant paranoia. Critics praised him for showing Stalin as a real person rather than just a villain. His performance earned him a Golden Globe for Best Actor in a miniseries or motion picture made for television. In The Man Who Captured Eichmann in 1996, Duvall took on another dark figure. He played Adolf Eichmann, the Nazi war criminal responsible for planning the Holocaust. The film followed his capture by Mossad agents in Argentina in 1960 and his interrogation before being sent to Israel for trial. Duvall's portrayal was chilling. He didn't play Eichmann as a monster, but as a bureaucrat who carried out horrific crimes with cold detachment. His performance earned him another Emmy nomination and showed once again his ability to take on morally complex roles. Even in his later years, Duvall continued delivering standout performances. In A Civil Action in 1998, he played Jerome Thatcher, a sharp defense attorney representing corporations accused of polluting a town's water supply. The role earned him an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. He didn't make Thacker a villain, but instead played him as a practical man doing his job. In Get Low in 2009, he starred as Felix Bush, a reclusive hermit in 1930s Tennessee who plans his own funeral party while still alive. The film explored themes of guilt and redemption, and critics called Duvall's performance one of his best. He won the Hollywood Film Festival Award for Best Actor. In The Judge in 2014, he played Joseph Palmer, a small-town judge accused of murder who must reconnect with his estranged son, played by Robert Downey Jr. Their father-son relationship was the emotional core of the movie. Duvall's performance earned him another Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor at the age of 84, proving his talent never faded. Over 6 decades, Robert Duvall built a career few actors could match. He won an Academy Award for Tender Mercies in 1983, where he played a washed-up country singer seeking redemption. He earned 6 Oscar nominations across 5 decades, an achievement that showed his consistency and range. On television, he won 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, including one for Broken Trail in 2006, a Western miniseries that set new standards for TV storytelling. He also won 4 Golden Globe Awards and a BAFTA. Back in the late 1950s, Robert Duvall was just another struggling actor in New York City. He shared a tiny apartment with Gene Hackman and Dustin Hoffman. Duvall and Hackman had something else in common: a quick temper. Hackman had a habit of picking fights in bars. One night he turned to Hoffman and said, "I gotta go to a bar and get into a fight," like it was just part of the routine. Duvall, never one to back down, sometimes joined in. Hoffman was usually the one pulling them out of trouble before things got too serious. Their apartment was a constant whirlwind of actors, opera singers, and models from their acting classes. It was chaotic, but exciting. Duvall had a wild sense of humor that kept things unpredictable. Hoffman once shared a story about him walking in while he was showering with a girlfriend. Instead of leaving, Duvall stripped down, stepped into the shower, and casually introduced himself. That was the kind of person he was: bold, unfiltered, and always pushing boundaries. Even with all the craziness, the three had deep respect for each other's talent. Hoffman later called Duvall the new Brando, comparing him to one of the greatest actors of all time. Back then, that was the highest praise anyone could get. These years of struggle shaped them all, but Duvall's fire and determination never faded. In 2003, he was 71 years old and still refusing to slow down. While filming Open Range, a Western directed by Kevin Costner, he insisted on doing his own stunts. During pre-production in Calgary, Canada, he fell off a horse and fractured several ribs. Most actors his age would have stepped back, let a stunt double take over, or even quit the project. Duvall refused. He recovered at his home in Virginia and returned to set as soon as he could. Costner was amazed by his dedication. He later said Duvall's performance in Open Range was one of the greatest in Western cinema history. The film itself became a critical success, and Duvall's portrayal of Bluebonnet boss Spearman gave it heart. His injury only proved what many already knew: he would do whatever it took to make a performance feel real. Duvall's love for history was just as strong as his love for acting. That connection took on a strange twist while filming Gods and Generals in 2003. Some scenes were shot on his own estate in Virginia, a property rich with history. While exploring the land, Duvall discovered Civil War artifacts, including cannonballs from old battles. Playing Confederate General Robert E. Lee in the film was already a meaningful role for him, but finding actual relics from the war on his own property made it even more personal. He came from a military family. His father was a rear admiral, so this connection to the past felt almost like fate. Gods and Generals sparked controversy for its portrayal of the Confederacy, but it was widely praised for its historical accuracy. Duvall's estate became part of that authenticity, blurring the line between film and reality.